Welcome to the whitest house. Slave souls haunt the halls when the light is out. They suck the blood of the poor and the wipe their mouth. The last gas of a world that is dying out. Welcome to the whitest house, where every room is a tomb that they lie about. Where you can put your filthy feet on the finest couch, and for the right amount.
If that's the essence of your entire political identity, you might be a white supremacist.
Hopefully you are not a white supremacist, but if you are, I guess are you welcome? I mean, we're going to talk bad about you, but if you want to watch the show and you want to comment, what I mean? It's a free country. You're free to do so. I'm Jasiri X. I am one of the hosts of This Week in White Supremacy. I'm joined. Why is it just on me? I'm joined. It's a group of us. I'm taking all the smoke this episode. Why is it just on me? I have other co-hosts. There's one of them. You want to introduce yourself, Miracle?
Hey.
I mean, since I'm replaceable, I don't know. But
formerly of the one.
Yeah. It's Miracle, just here by myself, formerly known as one half of the Wonder Twins. But it's okay though, it's here. It's okay. It's all right. Just next.
Well,
fine.
Welcome.
Yeah. Wow. You just go.
Not saying nothing.
Anything. You see these? Okay. Not even the Derek Jackson apology. Not even the nothing. Wow. It's just
maybe next time y'all are in the studio together, y'all can hold hands together.
No.
You can get yourself a beret, Miracle.
I represent anybody. I never represent the implication.
The implication of what?
I was replacing people. What did I even call it? I've
been quiet the whole
time.
not you replacing people. No, we're not talking about that.
Jeez.
Can you introduce yourself, brother? Who are you? You wear dark glasses. We can't see you.
There's a kid with the golden arms, full-time supervillain, part-time hater. You get me? Tight right now. Niggas got me tight already.
A man likes tight. Well, Trouble, you bring the peace and joy to the One Hood family. You balance it out. Yeah, balance us out, brother.
Sometimes I do question who I am, but today I know I'm Trouble Nonetheless, and we never lose in sight. You know what I'm saying? We out here.
I like that. We out here. Well, welcome to This Week in White Supremacy. We have, of course, the show that writes itself. It's mad white supremacy going on, but we wanted to start with a trailer for a new TV show
of a madness
that kind of have made the rounds online. So if you have not seen this trailer, it's called The United States of Al, and it is, I guess we'll play the trailer.
Is this supposed to be
us? What?
Is this supposed to be like the United States of Al Qaeda?
Oh,
is that what they're trying to do?
Whoa!
Is that where they're going with this? I don't know. Maybe watch the trailer. You discern for yourself. Don't let me.
I don't know. Farouk Al Saeed.
You giving out my government?
Nigga, they talking about your ass.
Oh Lord!
Nigga trying to get me deported.
No, free him. Close backward.
I've been in immigration for detainment. That shit is scary. We ain't playing that.
Let's play the trailer and we'll have a conversation about the United. And this is the guy Chuck. What's his name? Chuck Lorre.
Chuck Lorre.
Who created,
Chuck Lorre,
yeah. He created what? 2.5 Men.
I want to see everything. Washington D.C., Las Vegas, and what's the name of that place that sells peanut butter and brings it to you on a forklift?
Costco. The whole time I served in Afghanistan, Al was my interpreter.
Hey, welcome. Let me get you a beer.
Dad, no alcohol.
Right. Oh, sorry. No, your son should be sorry for talking to you with that tone of voice. I like him.
Daddy! Do you know that your Uncle Al is your godfather?
Which some might say is even more important than an actual father.
No one says that.
April Fool's
How did
Day.
you not tell me you were having marriage problems? I could have fixed it.
From Afghanistan.
It's not the move. Have Wi-Fi.
I appreciate how much you want to help, but you couldn't make it work.
Do you think you tried hard enough?
He's the one who didn't try hard enough.
He was probably exhausted from war. There was a lot of walking.
Thank you for keeping my brother safe.
As your godfather, I will protect you for the rest of my life.
Will you be my godfather too?
Get your own.
Thank you for welcoming me into your home.
Yo, what's happening? You'll get used to it.
So I have so much to say.
You know,
I just want to point out.
Go ahead, Miracle.
I just want to point out the historical issues with this. So, for those of you who are not aware, the interpreters that assisted, aided, helped U.S. soldiers were promised citizenship, were promised safety, and each time the U.S. decided that they were going to scale down or withdraw from conflict, they literally abandoned these individuals who were then most of the time tortured, murdered them and their families, and literally left them to die. And the fact that we are making a comedy about this without including this population, without even saying and I'm sorry, without even giving that backstory is enraging to me. But I will let Farouk continue because it makes no sense.
Miracle, how do we touch the hearts and minds of 65-year-old plus white Americans if we actually tell them the real truth?
You know what? They already know. They already know. Like, let's not pretend that we don't have military people at every single function across this country. They know what happens abroad. Like, they don't want their hearts and minds touched. But they're out here doing enough.
Miracle, do they though? I would argue that a lot of them
Have you talked to any Vietnam veteran?
No. I'm just saying the majority of like white America don't really truly understand what the terror that America
and a comedy show is going to tell them the terror.
Oh no, absolutely. No, I'm just saying I would argue that most people don't really know what is happening in their name in countries across the world that U.S. imperialism and U.S. foreign policy is doing. You know what I'm saying?
If we're being honest, they probably think it's okay if they do know. You know what I'm saying? They probably do know, and they're like army sympathists, and they think anybody on foreign soil was the enemy for some reason.
So it's if you ask people don't know about what the police are doing, and on January 6th they said, "Why are you up here not shooting black motherfuckers?" So
that's real. I'm just saying, if you ask people how long have we been in Afghanistan, if you start even asking people the basic question, most people don't know that this is the place that we've been in the longest, the quote unquote war that we've been in the longest is occupying Afghanistan. I don't know if the average, now like you said, is this show going to change that? Of course not. Absolutely 100% not. But I'm just saying, I just think you're giving people too much credit. And I say that to say, remember post 9/11, it was they hate us because of our freedom. And it was it wasn't until later on that we actually were able to get in a conversation about how the United States shows up in these countries and why somebody might actually be angry or upset, at United States, foreign policy,
We should have Jeremiah Wright on this show because I don't think he gets his flowers and his props enough because he was right. If we think about it, he was right when he was talking about our international policy and neoliberalism and how we bomb other countries. And a lot of us, myself included, got it wrong. But I know Farouk had wanted to say something some ago.
And I will reach out to Dr. Wright. But one of the most intelligent people I've ever met or heard speak. Brilliant brother. Man like Saeed.
So people don't think I got a tag team partner with me. Could we bring in Sadaf real quick?
Let's introduce Sadaf. And Sadaf is apparently Sadaf and Treble are the new Wonder Twins.
Bro, I don't want to disrespect Miracle like that. We gotta have like our own name.
Y'all look like y'all about to go to Kennywood. Like y'all.
It's right up the street, so you know what I'm saying?
But so Sadaf is are you first generation, Sadaf?
No, I'm an immigrant. My children
are
first generation.
Yeah.
Okay, so your children be first generation.
From
Afghanistan.
Kindred spirits.
Yeah. Yes, from Afghanistan. Yep.
Sadaf. So kind of the basis of where this show is from. And Sadaf came to us at One Hood as a choral fellow and has worked with us and kind of knows our intricacies. So like I'll take it back to you, Farouk, and you could kind of bring Sadaf. But we want to have Sadaf in this conversation because she is from Afghanistan. She's also super opinionated. very opinionated.
Super smart, super brilliant, super passionate.
Very highly intelligent, highly passionate. I'm glad you said that. That's 100% fact.
Thank
so
you.
Saeed.
Yeah. So firstly, when I first went with this, when Jasiri sent me the link, I was like, yo, did they really make a show about having a fucking slave in 2021? Right? Like they made this nigga a slave, right? And I immediately thought about Haji from Johnny Quest. So anybody that remembers the Johnny Quest cartoons, that's where I went first, is Haji, right? And how Miracle had talked about what the U.S. government, with the armed forces, do to interpreters. You gotta keep in mind, over across the sea, interpreters are the snitches of the village, right? They the snitches of the village, right? So what do you think happens to snitches on the road here in the States and in the West, right? You deal with them niggas.
And
as soon as it's
points,
oftentimes you do that because you're cooperating. The idea is like I'm cooperating,
and
cooperating
for
the person who I'm cooperating with is going to protect you, right? So if you're gonna
and
snitch,
as soon as them niggas leave, you left to the ends, you left to the wolves.
Right.
The hyenas is gonna get you still. So I mean, one, we got to talk about that. Two, and Sadaf can touch on this because she's actually from there. Like, you know, my mom got political asylum from the Middle East, right? My father gave me an American name for fear that I wouldn't be able to travel abroad with an Arabic name. My mom gave me an Arabic name. My father gave me a Western name because he had the foresight to see a war on terror. There was a war in Lebanon where my mom's from when I was born. So that makes this very triggering to me. And Sadaf actually come from an even worse country. Right, I'm gonna put finger quotes on that, but I'll say this before I pass it off to Sadaf. This is part for the course of how Asian people are represented in media as we're dealing with this Asian racism and mass murder right now. Anytime you see Asian people on TV, specifically men, they're automatically stripped of their masculinity. They don't have deep voices. They're in subservient roles. They're always smaller, frail people who can't stick up for themselves, which is why Warrior is such a fucking great show. Because you got to see some real authentic Chinese shit, you know, happening in the States. But I digress. As we have this, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry, I thought you was wrapping up.
As we have all this Asian shit that's happening, all this Asian hate that's being popularized in the mainstream media. Not only do you bring this shit out, but you're gonna play it during Ramadan. You're gonna have the show come out during Ramadan about Muslims being subservient, about all like how my nigga, how. I'm done.
I mean, it is April 1st, and before I pass it to you, Sadaf, for those that don't know, we're discussing a TV show from CBS called United States of Al. If you could, if you could drop that link in the
Oh, damn! Jasiri just
got you wanted to drop the link in the chat, but like Sadaf, did you want to give your perspective as someone? Yeah. Is this the representation that you wanted for your community?
Oh, not even a little bit. It's truly disgusting. So on Twitter, I've had my Twitter for about 10 years, and it's my form of news. It's the way that I get everything. And the first tweet that I saw was from Reza.
Because I'm black, nigga. That's why.
Look,
my dad black, nigga. Shut the fuck up. Don't come in my show with that shit, nigga.
I told y'all I be telling. I have to tell people.
Let's Sadaf.
Black.
You don't have to, right, bro. You don't have to respond to the comments right as they come.
I'm back. Yeah. I'm already tight, bro. I'm already tight. I'm done.
Farouk is back. You know what I'm saying? Farouk is black, but you have gotten that question before, so we, you know what I'm saying? That's why. But what I was saying, somebody said that. Damn, the host just left. Yeah, I was just setting it up. It's the United States of Al. If you don't know, we just dropped the trailer into the comments. If you wanted to watch the trailer, just to put it in the context of.
All
right, and you about to get kicked out.
Go ahead, continue.
Yes,
and we're going to drop your Twitter too, so we can give you props and follow you.
Yes, absolutely. And so I saw it on Twitter, and I saw a retweet from Reza. Reza is one of the Iranian writers or directors. I know nothing about like show stuff, but he's involved in
he's one of the executive producers of the show.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. So he's an executive producer, and he's like, well, you're not giving the show a chance, this and that. And a lot of people came out with like having an issue with the casting. I have no issue with the casting, mainly because first off, I used to watch Rules of Engagement, and he played Timmy in that, and I love that show. And Timmy, like the guy who's playing it, I think he's adorable. I love him. Great actor. The issue for me is not at all that like it's that he's in this role. There's really like little to no Afghan actors. There's a few actresses, and they get a lot of heat for just being actresses. So like people, also the privilege of being in the industry is like its own thing, and like Afghans don't have that. So I understand, not a problem. My problem is much of what you said, Miracle, right? Like the role of interpreters. What happens to interpreters is, and I know this because I have family and friends who have been interpreters. I actually recently met another interpreter that was brought here, but it took him like 10 years. And to give a little perspective, this involvement of the US has been going on for 4 decades now. This is 40 years of, if anyone can ever imagine waking up to bombs. And I was 2-3 years old when I left Afghanistan. And the way trauma works is that you remember, even when you're so young, and that 2-year-olds definitely don't remember their lives. I, as a 2-3-year-old, like absolutely remember every single bomb, every single time my family had to hide out. I remember all of those instances, and it's just like, whatever, you're 3 years old, no way you remember. That's like, yes, I do, because it's so traumatic to hide in this like little hole as there's bombs being flown out and your house is being destroyed, because that's literally what happened. My uncles were tortured by the Taliban, and then we had to move out in the middle of the night. And everything that has gone on with US occupation, them currently propping up and negotiating with the Taliban, the very force they have been fighting against. And the very thing that I'm studying here at UCSB is this relationship of the US and what ended up happening in Afghanistan. And it has essentially consumed my entire research. I would love to study anything else, but I don't have that privilege because I'm from Afghanistan, and this is what I'm, drawn to. But in this case, like, everything that has gone on, the war and atrocity, and every conversation I have with my family members where they talk about the pain, they cry over it. They're like, we have not been left alone for decades. Our children grew up in this. This is all we know.
Right.
Then what does CBS do? Do they make a documentary? Do they make a movie?
No.
Do they make a show that is dramatic, that is, do they do that, to convey the severity of the issue? Do they do that?
Right.
Do they even come close to that? No. Instead, they make
so to them, I mean, I guess they would say that like the sitcom is like the way to kind of reach America's heart. And I just wanted to elaborate on something that you said. So the main character that you saw that plays Al is not Afghani.
No,
he is
he's from
Indian from South Africa,
yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. So that was an initial. People were like, "Well, couldn't you find somebody like if this is about somebody that's Afghani? Could you find?" You said that wasn't an issue.
For me,
it was
no,
more
because
so
I reckon,
the trivialization of like what's actually happening there. So like you said, like this guy Reza, he said that they're gonna, right. He, according to him, they're going to talk about that, and we just have to, I guess, wait to seasons. Miracle's expression is hilarious. Wait to like season 5. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But I guess my take on this is, and I'll come to you, Treble and Miracle as well. Is like, you know, it's wild to me that like, and this happened with Black people a lot. Like the threat are white, specifically white men, but white people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like white people enslaved us, murdered us, raped us, lynched us. But then somehow like we're the dangerous ones. Like, no, like we're like why do we? And so then when we show up in popular culture, like we have to always like be made to seem like less threatening when like white people are actually the real threat. Like when you go like it's the soldiers and the occupiers of Afghanistan, like white people went over there. You know what I'm saying? To quote unquote get bin Laden, but been there, was there before that and been there. There's a whole history of, you know, Ronald Reagan and all that. And so it's like you're the one that showed up in somebody else's country with like tanks and bombs and all of this stuff. But somehow the Afghani people are the threat. And so in order to exist in white America, they have to be he's not even looking like a soldier per se. He has to be, oh, I'm so sweet and kind and hi, how you doing? And oh, I love this little white girl over here and I'll be your goddaddy. I'll be like, no issue with the occupation of his country. No issue with like his people being blown. Like, and that's what's so wild to me. But we have to like show up like that because that's how we get white America to love us. Then this is what this guy's basically saying. Right. There's a Muslim guy who's the EP who's from Iran. Like, this is how you solve the racial dynamics. And, you know, it's like, yo, Bill Cosby had the #1 show. Now, we know Bill Cosby now is problematic and we're not co-signing nothing Bill Cosby has done. But Bill Cosby had a #1 show for years. That didn't make Black people less threatened. That didn't lead to us being beat or brutalized or killed by the police less because Bill Cosby was somewhere eating Jell-O pudding pops and smiling at white folks. Like, so this is what I don't understand. Like this idea that like we have to do this so then white people can accept us and maybe now they won't be Islamophobic because this person, like, this is what you're trying to sell me?
Right, right.
I don't know. Miracle, did you have something to say? And I wanted to come to Trouble after that.
Okay. I didn't know Trouble wanted to go first, so I had already spoken. Did you have something?
Trouble? Ladies first, always.
Okay, so I've said before, and I'll say it again, representation is not liberation. And in this case, it's like a fifth of representation. And I know y'all called me racist last week because I was saying I think that people with lived experiences should be the ones that represent their culture in arts and music and media and literacy. I firmly believe that like Black Americans should be able to tell Black American stories to a Black American audience. Now, Lena is an exception because like I don't know who her audience is, even though she's Black. But what I think is that we have to stop making art for people to love us and see us as human. It's not going to work. And we waste so much time. I think it was like Toni Morrison was talking about the function of racism as distraction. We waste so much time creating art that we think is going to consume and be palatable for people who don't give a fuck about us. And I think it's hard for us to realize there are people who were basically almost inherently do not like the fact that we're on this show, that we are here, that we are thriving, existing, and no TV show, no comedy, no like perfect Sambo, no Mammy, nothing is going to make them love us, respect us, appreciate us, and protect us. And until we actually recognize that, we'll keep having these crappy TV shows, and it's just going to be embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so my comment is towards the rhetoric of the show, which is basically like targeting the realism of the situation, right? And the question that comes up for me is like, if this guy was not basically an interpreter for the U.S. Army, would he be getting the same treatment in this home? Would he be getting the same treatment in this household? You know what I'm saying? No. It's like it kind of gives this better.
Trying to come in the door.
You feel me? It's like it kind of gives off this vibe that like if you're not of service to white people, you don't deserve the respect. You know what I'm saying? Only when you do certain things for white people will they respect you as a human being.
No, that's such a powerful point. Like he had value because he saved this white guy's life. So like because he saved this white guy, like now his family can accept them. You know what I'm saying? But like if he was just a regular Afghanistani person, like yourself, you and your family came over here to die. It's like, oh, you from where? Oh no, you Muslim, you blah blah blah. You know, it's like all of this rhetoric then comes at you because you didn't service like white supremacy
I've been told
in that
so
way.
many times, go back to your country. And my response is the millisecond that US troops are out of my country and my country no longer has any ties to the US, which will never, ever happen, by the way, I am on the first flight out. I'm not even looking back. Don't worry about me. But that is never going to happen because US occupation, US neoliberalism policy, and all this bullshit like rhetoric and like system that they have created that like is self-reinforcing is going to continue. And because of that, these bases in probably countries we don't even know about, like that exist, like the US's presence will always be there. It will always infiltrate and influence all these different other sorts of mechanisms that are going on. It will always be the reason that countries are destroyed. People say, you know, what happened in Afghanistan was such a failure. Someone said that to me once, and I was in class with my professor, and I was like, I'm sorry, what did you say? And they're like, yeah, it was such a failure. I was like, no, it was the greatest success that the US could have ever hoped for. What are you talking about? And I was like, just like when we talk about the broken system, the system's not broken. It is exactly how it's supposed to be. Exactly. It's putting Black people in jail. That is exactly what it was meant to do.
That's what it was meant to do, yeah.
Yeah, the US is not at all failing in its world domination. And no matter how many wars it loses on like the front of it, in reality, they have control over all of Afghanistan's natural resources, which the Soviets were dying for. They have all influence of trade. They are the ones that are supplying and arming the Taliban. Where's the Taliban finding guns? They're too dumb to do anything. Are you kidding? Like they have control of everything. No, it was not a failure. It was a major success. We like to say it's a failure so we can like, you know, we can brush under the rug like the stuff that's going on behind the scenes so we never have to actually talk about it. But like from my understanding and my readings, absolutely not. The US won time and time again.
So April 1st, if this is indeed a real show, because it would be amazing. Like if this was not a real show, this would be amazing. Like I would give it up to them.
I mean, they did a great job of getting us tight. You get me? Like this would be one of the best April Fool's jokes ever.
But if this is a really show, like, are you gonna watch this? Are you all like? Are y'all planning?
I didn't even watch Homeland. Like I didn't watch Homeland.
I think I'm gonna watch it because the main critique that Reza offers is you're judging it without, and it's like, all right, cool. I'm gonna watch the first episode, then I'm gonna watch. Right. So a lot of a few Afghan influencers, I sent Jasiri you the video, and I sent Trouble the video as well.
I've watched the show. Yes.
They got a sneak peek preview because there's 4 writers on the show who are Afghan. But the thing is, and I say this consistently, and this goes for any and all communities, especially Afghans, God love them, but we love money. So if you give us enough money, we're going to co-sign on to different things. Not, by the way, I know my community is going to come.
That's everybody. That's
everybody.
People, that's everywhere. We love you. Give us enough money. Right. We'll co-sign some bullshit.
And especially if you're like, you know, an Afghan that like especially writing is such a precarious thing that you're not going to find a lot of jobs in that. And so you finally get the opportunity to write for something and it's a TV show, it's Hollywood, you're going to take it, you know? So it doesn't matter how many people you have on your board. It doesn't matter any of that stuff. It's not representation to us. It doesn't matter regardless, because at the end of the day, like, give anyone enough money, they're going to co-sign whatever you want them to co-sign. And that's just how it goes. But that doesn't mean anything. And so in this respect, especially, they decided to additionally have other Afghans come in and watch the show and like, you know, get some feedback. They gave them a ton of feedback. Chuck Lorre and them did not listen, nor did they care.
Yeah, that's what she said. She said she said they gave the critique. They was kind of like whatever. And so I think what's interesting about that this show comes out is that like at the same time we have this mass shooting in Boulder, Colorado, like another mass shooting, another like America's reopening, and what do we see? You know, mass shootings happening. and then, you know, and I think his name was like Al something. I don't know his whole name, but I think it started with like Al. And this was like a Muslim. And then it was a question around, because interesting, you know, Ed kind of questioned your blackness, Farouk, because it kind of leads to this conversation around, because people were saying, no, he is white. Although he was like a Syrian Muslim, if you see a picture of him, he looks white. So like, and I don't want to, you know, this isn't to try to come at you, Sadar, but I'm interested is like, do people often like identify you as white? Like, are people like curious about your background, and like how have you experienced like race, you know, as an Afghani, and because, you know, and I don't want to put all your business up there, where you grew up in a small town, like just how did you experience race, and like what was it ever like people just assumed you were white? Just tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, so I've never been white, never been assumed to be white, thankfully. And in some instances, you know, it's been, you know, an issue. My brother has, so I'm the darkest skinned person in like my entire cousins and family and like all of that. So so I'm the darkest skinned, and I mean, I've gotten comments from my own family members because, you know, colonialism and like whatnot, you know, loving white fairer skin, that's just like a cultural thing. And so I've been said that from my family's background, where I've been, you know, called it's called wheat colored in Farsi. It's I'm not going to say it, but yeah, I've been called wheat colored. And that's a slur, like to be wheat colored? Kind of, yes, it's kind of a slur. Yeah. And which is funny because my foundation is literally called wheat. So, you know, that I'm cool with it. But anyway, yeah, no, on the outside, like, wheat color gives you like white privilege in America. Yes, it does. Absolutely. I mean, I'm also like 5'2", and I'm smaller, and so I'm overlooked. Absolutely not much of an issue. My brother, when he was younger, because he was so pale, he was very white passing, and up until recently, where he grows a very dark black beard, and he's looked at a little weirdly. Then he doesn't have, if he grows his beard, then his privilege is not as high as when he shaves. That's so interesting. It is, yeah, because he's pretty fair skinned. And then my sisters, like me and my sister, me especially, I always get Latina, and so like people come up to me and speak Spanish to me, and so, which is great because I know a little bit of Spanish, so I get to practice that way. But like in general, no, I haven't necessarily, you know, like when I was younger, I used to get called the terrorist every day. I remember instances where, yeah, people would be like, "What's in your backpack?" "Oh my God, is Al Qaeda your dad?" When Bin Laden was caught, they were like, "We're so sorry for your loss." I was like, "Oh God, Lord, white people. What are you talking about?" But so how do we process this? Because I know, Miracle, you were kind of adamant that like, like this guy was white, because, you know, it was initially, we saw the picture of it. Everybody was saying like another white guy did a mass shooting.
I gotta look him up because I haven't seen him yet. And then, well, they had a picture of a person of interest. And like, when you look at this picture, you see like what looks to be like a white guy. You know what I'm saying? And then when it came out, like, no, he's Muslim. You want to post that picture up, John? Oh, you got a picture of him? Because I was looking. Yeah, he has a picture. Throw that picture up, right? So like, oh shit, right. So like, when you see that, to me, like, I look at that picture and say that guy's white. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a white man. I can picture him. Like, his name is Ahmad Al-Alwari Alisa. Yeah, I couldn't even. I wasn't even trying to pronounce that. You know what I'm saying? But you know, like, then when it came out, like, no, he's a Syrian Muslim, like, people actually like were apologizing, like, oh, I apologize, I thought he was white. And it's like, you know, so I just wanted to pass it to you, Miracle. Like, is this guy white?
That's a white man right there. So I don't know what.
Bro,
from
the
Caucasus Mountains. The mountains of Caucasus. Okay, so I think I know people, especially people who are Middle Eastern and Israeli and Iranian, hate when people label them as white. I understand it. However, if you look at some of the legal definitions of what Caucasian is interpreted by our government, it has been white or Caucasian. In addition, a lot of people, because in America it's either you're white or you're black, a lot of people culturally, because of trying to protect themselves from white supremacy and violence, have culturally said they are white. So I always have a problem when people who have traditionally identified as white don't want to be identified as white when it becomes the issue. But when there's benefits and privileges, are like, oh, we're all white people. In addition, when I was doing diversity and inclusion work, we had to rewrite what diverse meant, specifically so we could include people of Middle Eastern descent into protection, because we understood that there was discrimination against those populations. And so when people think I'm being bigoted or ignorant or funny when I say people are white, but it's like, in America, you are white passing, you are white, right? Whether it's intentional or not, if you look white, you are white until proven otherwise. However, if the one drop rule, it's like you are Black until we have decided you've performed enough for whiteness. And so for me, I just be like, that's the white person, and I keep it moving. If you are perceived white, if the state perceives you as white, if all these officers thought you were white and now they're all shook because they didn't shoot you because now they realize you're a Muslim, well, that's you're white. Like I don't know what to say, but I get that. Like I said before, there are many cultures under white. You know, you got Italian, you got Irish, you got Russian, you got Serbian. A lot of people are white, but we group them as this one thing because we don't talk about people's cultures as much. But you know, that was a white man. Like another white man committed an act of violence, and I'm not budging on that.
Am I allowed to jump in here?
You sure? Yeah, we disagree on brothers all the time.
I'm gonna come right to you, Saeed. But I think even when it's interesting that once it's found out he's Muslim, like his whiteness is a race, because even the guys that did the Boston Marathon bombing, it was like just like you said, Serbian. Like if you look at these guys, they're white, but their whiteness gets now they're Muslim. Like as soon as we find out that you have a Muslim background, it erases that whiteness. But it also reminded me of, I remember having conversations with Iranians, people that was, a young Iranian woman that was telling me her parents said, don't call yourself Iranian, say you're Persian. Because to say you're Iranian is in America, because of America's mindset, it's automatically you're against this country. You know what I'm saying? So like you said, it's when it's convenient, you could be something else. When you're Black, you don't have that option of blending in. You know what I'm saying? When people seen that dude, they was that's a white dude, and that's probably why he was captured alive. Saeed?
So it's interesting because what Miracle said, if we go off of what Miracle said, right, then that's assigning America's metric to whiteness and culture, and that's not how it works, right? My mom's family, when they came here and they escaped asylum, when they received asylum, a good bit of them married Italian and denounced Islam and became white because that's the cultural expectation. It was able for them to fit in, right? However, they were all very dark Arabs, which is a conversation in and of itself, because if you look at the Saudi Arabian or the Arabian Peninsula, it's just separated by some water connected to Africa, really and truly. If you belong to that part of the land, you can hit Africa with a rock. I digress. Arab people have traditionally been considered Arab. It wasn't until a lot newer on the census did you start grouping things to eliminate the browning of America. Asian people are considered white. Mexican, Latinx are considered white. You have non-Black Hispanic. You have, and now Middle Eastern is lumped into white, right? If you go to the Middle East and you ask somebody if they white, they're gonna be like, nah. Right? It's not a connotation that you get. There are lighter Arabs because of colonialism and because of a lot of trade routes and things of that nature. But if you go to some place like Yemen, you go to Bahrain, you go to Oman, you go to these places, they look Dominican, right? They look Black. You know what I mean? You're not gonna be able to be like, oh man, until they start speaking Arab, they could be like, oh, I didn't even know that's what, you know what I mean? So there's a cultural difference. There's a lineage that goes unchecked, but because of what Miracle did say that is factual, America's recognition, the state recognizes Arab people as white, right? True. It's one of those things.
Also, if that guy, can we argue, bro? If that guy showed up and said my name was Al Smith, you would be like that. and had no
I'd be
accent.
like,
I don't know. Yeah, you'd
no,
be like, that's a
no
white guy.
whatsoever. Yeah, no, I mean, because
Right.
you know, you could look at it because, and that's kind of thing. You know how Africa is the most diverse continent on the planet, right? You have a giant continent where people can look different, right? Not everybody in Africa looks like they from Sudan. You know what I mean? It's just not how it works. That's how it works globally, right? And with Middle Eastern people, my mom never considered herself white. We never considered ourselves white. Like, you know, my dad is black. My dad was in the Black Panthers. My dad blackity black.
At work.
You know what I mean? Waste man. Wait, I ain't even speaking that nigga name, right? But you know, that's just kind of like the connotation of it, right? And you know, I wouldn't consider an Asian person white. However, I think, you know, if you go to Puerto Rico, Puerto Rican is a nationality. It's not an ethnicity. You can be Argentinian and Puerto Rican. You could be, you know, Sudanese and Puerto Rican.
But like you mentioned Argentina. It reminds me of
Argentina. They're white. Those are white.
Whoever the woman that won the award, I forget her name, but from the Queen's Gambit, and they were like, she's the first woman of color, and people was like, she don't got no color, like no disrespect. That woman's white. You know what I'm saying? So I think that you get into that.
This is the final thing I'll say, because we spent a lot of time on this and we did have a script. We did go to a specific area. There's a word in Arabic for black people, right? The color black in Arabic is aswad, right? But that doesn't define people. That defines a color. If you're referring to people, abad, slave.
Right.
If you're referring to, you know, Barack Obama was called this by somebody, I forget, but the way they look at this United States is manzal al-abid, the slave of the house, a house nigga, right? That's the Arabic word for like a house slave, or someone that you keep around you to interpret or do your bidding or something like that. Manzal al-abid. And my family call us abati, right? My brothers and I, you know what I mean? My mom's family had like,
now you saying like nigga, this is like nigga in Arabic, right? This is like the N-word.
Yeah, that's nigga in Arabic. Yeah, that's that's
I just want to make sure, like when I hear it, like if I could just punch a nigga in his face, I just
absolutely, man. Yo,
Abati, all right, it's on.
you catching the death us, right? You catching the death us.
Me and Trouble's running up on you. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
100%. I'm excited for that opportunity.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for joining us, Sadaf. Next level Sadaf.
Next level
I
Sadaf.
just wanted to add to that conversation quickly that like the way you can tell if you're white or not, or if you're deemed white, is the way that the police are going to treat you. The way the police apprehended this man, the way they took him in, the perception of the police right then and there tells you what race that person is, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Black people do not get treated that way, especially after shooting up none of that was
not even when not
even
when
just
we're
being
not
suspected
armed.
of shooting.
Not even armed, exactly.
Not armed. And well, thank you for joining us, Sadaf. We appreciate your insight.
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead, Miracle.
I just want two things. One thing about John Crawford, and two thing I forgot the gentleman's name. The Hispanic gentleman who just survived the shooting in Atlanta. They handcuffed him for 2 hours. Denied him like medical treatment. Wouldn't even tell him if his wife was alive or dead. And he was just the darkest person in the room. So when we're talking about the way the police perceive whiteness, and again, whiteness being an American Western construct, I get it. But the way, the construct of which we live and engage in. And so that's what I'm talking about. But yeah, shout out to Sadaf.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah, no, he wasn't arrested. He didn't do anything, but because, like Miracle said, he was the darkest person on the scene, and so he was handcuffed and held for 2 hours. His wife, I believe, was killed. He wasn't given any information, anything about her. And that's oftentimes, and we saw that actually this week with two stories that came out in Pittsburgh, where you had, one, the AP, got into a private police Facebook page of police in Allegheny County, which is where Pittsburgh was located. And of course, it was filled with anti-blackness. It was filled with homophobia and transphobia. It was filled with support and love of Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? Like the same thing. And the same day, Pittsburgh's black newspaper, the New Pittsburgh Courier, released this report about how black people in Pittsburgh, black men specifically, are arrested 6 times more than white men in Pittsburgh. Black women are arrested 4 times more. than white women in Pittsburgh. That 12% of Pittsburgh's black population has been arrested in 2020, and this was 2020. This wasn't 5 years ago. And when it came to the white population, it was less than 2%. So once again, just going back to this conversation, like how police deal with us and why we want to defund the police is not because we hate police or we hate a uniform. It's because the police actually functions as a, to really terrorize us, profile us, and harass us. And so therefore, like the more police that are there, the more harassment, the more oppression, the more violence, and more profiling will receive. That when police are and this is always happens when police don't think they're being recorded. We saw the police in Georgia not thinking they're being recorded, using nigger freely. We've seen police not thinking they're being recorded, talking about, running over protesters. And now these police thinking they had like a private area to have a conversation. But when that information is released, what are they doing? Anti-blackness, all about protesters of thugs, protesters of this and this and that. But they want to show up and like we're supposed to like trust you, and we're supposed to like not be afraid.
Pittsburgh's not even that black of a city for the yield numbers like that. Like when you think like as the black population diminishes daily in Pittsburgh, 4 black people leave Pittsburgh every day. So how are there still that many? How are we still getting arrested like that? Like that's indicative of systemic racism, right? Absolutely. If that doesn't show you right there that if Pittsburgh has never had a growing population since 1991, and the black population is leaving at an accelerated rate, yet we still comprise the majority of the arrests. What's that saying to you? What's that saying to you?
And think about like
livable for who? Livable for who?
And think about like what and what's wild to me, and I wonder like what those numbers have been even greater if we weren't like inside. Like this was 2020. You know what I'm saying? And so like even a pandemic can't save us from like racism and white supremacy and police being targeted. That was one of the things about Allegheny County Jail, that during COVID, that the jail population actually went up, and that the percentage of black people in the jail actually went up. So now we have a pandemic that's disproportionately affecting us as black people, and we have the state like unleashed against us. Didn't care about the pandemic, didn't care about the fact that you could possibly get COVID inside Allegheny County Jail. It didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? And so it's interesting, because we have, these elections coming up. It'll just be interesting to see. Like, I'm interested to know, like, how are folks going to explain this? Like, what's your reasoning behind this? Because like to quote, Ibram Kendi, it's either two things. It's either we're criminals, like you think that as black people, like we're inherently criminals and we need to be policed at this race, or these are racist policies. And if you put that, us being arrested next to how these cops are talking when they don't think nobody's watching, you have racist policies. And so to give more money to this is to actually give more empowerment to racists to brutalize us. Yeah. Did you all have anything, Miracle?
Yeah.
Trouble?
I wanted to bring it back to the Mexican man whose wife was killed, because it's like, I feel like not enough people are talking about the humanity of that. It's like, imagine you're one of the victims of the shooting, yet you're detained in handcuffs for hours and not given any information about your wife, the person that you love, the person that you are married to, and you don't know if she's alive, you don't know if she's dead, and you're detained for hours just to find out that she is. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
and say, hey, Trouble, just to say this, and I'll come to Miracle. Like that's common practice. I remember when the Detroit police killed Aiyana Jones, who was a little girl, I believe she was 7 years old. They arrested her grandmother and took her to the station and held her. This woman, after she saw her child killed by the police, when Ramali Graham, who was 19 years old and unarmed, was killed in New York City, they arrested his grandmother. Killed in front of his grandmother, they arrested his grandmother, took her to the station. Like, they do this type of shit all the time. And like, but do they see us as human? Go to the Facebook page. They don't. They don't see us as human. They don't see our humanity. A shooting happened. Here's some Mexican dude. It was probably him. Let's arrest him and let's treat him like we treat every brown or black person that we come across, because we don't see their humanity. This is why we got to say in 2021, fucking Black Lives Matter, Brown Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter. We got to say that in 2021 because white people won't stop white people. I'm sorry, Miracle.
I was gonna make a joke that it was social media, not the police, but I think we moved on from there. But I also want to raise up again, like John Crawford, when he was shot, they arrested his girlfriend and was like, he was about to go kill folks. Knowing good and well there was a video that exonerated him, and they waited weeks. His family had to wait weeks to realize he was innocent. And so when we're talking about the way the policing apparatus works, it is inherently violent. But what it also does, it uses media and TV shows and SVU to talk about why we need police, how police are going to come and save us. And that's, again, why we have to be very careful to, like, loop it back to the beginning of the show, of the media that we are putting out there. Because when you're creating a show that's saying that you have to be in servitude to whiteness in order to be human, and you have to be a black or brown savior in order to be engaged, that's very problematic. And we're seeing situations where we're and we also got to think about, again, our schools are reopening, right? And we're seeing so much violence or anti-blackness already happening in schools, from middle schools to colleges, to professors saying the N-word, professors saying that black students shouldn't be here, to professors to teachers making black kids pull out feces with their bare hands. And now we're sending our children back into these schools where they're now going to be encountering cops again, who already have these biases and bigotries, and are not going to have to do any type of training or engagement. And now we're going to wonder why in 6 months we're going to get a report talking about more black kids during Schumann, or more black kids are getting arrested. We're not prepared at all to deal with what's about to happen to our communities.
Yeah, it's gonna be, it's gonna be a hot summer, and say. But I did just want to contextualize for those that don't know who John Crawford was. He was killed by was a police officer in Walmart. He was in Walmart. He
bought the BB gun, right?
Right. He had picked up a BB gun in Walmart. Walmart sells real guns in a lot of places. Picked up a BB gun in Walmart and was immediately killed. Like, they didn't even say, hold on. They didn't say, wait a second. Was immediately shot down and killed. And that was in Ohio. I want to say that was 2014, around that time. And so, like you said, it does make me like, I know, like, everybody's we're like happy. You made me kind of like not want it to open up anymore. I know we're happy, like, people are getting vaccinated and summertime is coming and it's like, oh, we're getting back in. But you're kind of right in the sense that it's probably something that's going to happen along those lines, because we still have not, George Floyd killer, Derek Chauvin is on trial right now. We still haven't been holding police officers accountable for their killings. We're not even holding them accountable for the language that they're using on Facebook. And we're not holding them accountable at all. We're actually rewarding them. We're giving them more. We're going to pass acts to give police more money to do what with? You know what I'm saying? And so I do wonder, how this summer is going to look. Of course, there was like so much, we wanted to talk about. It's like 7 o'clock. So we do want to, man, it's like, I don't know, we might need 2 hours, or we might need to, take it to another platform or something. I don't know. Maybe we need to do like one show live on Facebook, and maybe one show like where, folks can give us some money to do it. I don't know. But hopefully maybe next week we can talk about like reparations. Because we had a whole conversation.
We had a great conversation about that earlier.
Reparations. We had a whole conversation about, the woman who went on a vacation to the Capitol.
Vacation was the Capitol riots and got divorced over it.
Cheated on her husband and went to the Capitol riot.
How you get arrested and divorced?
That is hilarious though.
What part of the game is that? Like, you fucking the whole game up. Like,
that's from Pittsburgh, or from the Pittsburgh. We wanted to talk about like the guy, the country singer who referred like that basically Cardi B is Hitler now because of WAP. performing WAP at the Grammys. Now she's Hitler. So it was just so much we wanted to talk about, including a white teacher who told the students to kneel. Yeah, it happened in Evanston, Illinois. So hopefully maybe next week we can get into that, or maybe we'll see if we can do more than one show. So we do want to get into our white pages this week. Essays and speeches by Audre Lorde, Sister Outsider. Definitely, you know, if you have not read this, you know, if you're not familiar with her work, please definitely pick this up. And then, did you want to talk about our call to action this week, Miracle?
We have a couple. Also, somebody messaged Boogie since he's apparently missed today. We're gonna hope he's okay, but message him the book.
Absolutely.
We have a couple call to actions. One in about 30 minutes, Jasiri is going to be on the Movement Voter Project talking about Pittsburgh. So at 7:30, you can head on over to Movement Voter Project's pages for that. But we talk a lot about policing, and one of the reasons why is tomorrow from 6 to 8 p.m. we're having a meeting for the Coalition to Reimagine Public Safety, and we're really trying to create a liberated society community by which we don't have policing and state violence in our lives. And if you want to come imagine with us, you know, talk things out, see where policing is in your life where it doesn't need to be, join us in Alliance for Accountability tomorrow at 6 p.m. It's going to be streamed live, but also we're doing some workshops. So if you want to be a part of the workshop, we'll drop the registration in the chat for that. In addition, you know, just don't be anti-Black.
Yes. Don't be anti-Black. Yes. Listen to Black people. Enjoy some of this good weather in Pittsburgh. So if you can drop that link in the chat to register, like Miracle said, tomorrow's meeting will be on, like, you'll be able to watch it live, but it's going to be on Zoom, so you can actually participate. And we really want to get like community feedback. We really want folks' feedback. We want folks' input. So definitely do that. And then this Saturday, we got something going on. Next Level. We got something Next Level going on this Saturday. Trouble?
We got the Next Level Slam going on this Saturday, you know what I'm saying, at 6 p.m. We're going to have a DJ. We have a very special guest judge joining us. Her name is Vanessa German. It's going to be pretty dope. I'm actually pretty excited for it.
Absolutely. Women's History Month.
Yes,
Next Level Slam is coming. And so, yeah, I'm excited about it as well. So if you're a poet, I think we still have, we're still looking for poets, so maybe we can drop that information in the chat as well about the Next Level Slam. So is there anything else? Last comments?
Never
Miracle,
lose sight.
You're on mute.
My bad. Until tomorrow afternoon.
Until tomorrow at 12. Yes.
Yes, we have that. Also, we know that the march today happened for the solidarity against anti-Asian violence. And just remembering, we'll probably post some stuff later, but just remember, y'all, our oppression is linked. Racism, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, all this stuff is a form of anti-Blackness and white supremacy. So we may not have to mule for each other, but we don't have to ignore each other's fights. So just remember to show up. Don't get in the way. Don't create harm. Don't be arguing on social media. Just enjoy the sun and let's get it together. Let's create the community of liberation.
We're probably going to
do.
We're going to still argue on social media more than likely. We're going to do all the other things. But yeah, just, don't take it so seriously, on social media. Don't take it too seriously. But folks going to argue, particularly right now. There's some arguing going on. So yeah, check us out next week. This has been This Week in White Supremacy. Peace, y'all. One hood.
Peace.
Slave souls haunt the halls when the light is out. They suck the blood of the poor and the wipe their mouth. The last gas of a world that is dying out. Welcome to the Whitest House. Every room is a tomb that they lie about. Where you can put your filthy feet on the finest couch. And for the right amount, you can even buy it out.